Um, Esteemed Chair, respected members of the panel along with me. Sir, General K.S., I would like to thank you to begin with for making my job a lot easier by covering the theoretical aspects of traditional and non-traditional security. In some way, it gives me that much time to cover issues related to the Northeast as I see it heading the Assam Rifles. So I just shall skip this part and come straight to this slide. Now, this is a slide that shows the importance of Manipur for our Act East policy. This is closer in the near vicinity, the Southeast Asian countries. As you would notice, Manipur is somewhere at the center here on the 1643 kilometers of Indo-Myanmar border. Manipur has 398 kilometers with Myanmar. And this state is very special because it is the actual land bridge to the Southeast Asian countries. Some of us might think if the border itself is 1643 kilometers, why only Manipur with 398 kilometers? Why not Nagaland? Why not Arunachal? Why not Mizoram? If I say that 90% of the trade happens from Moreh, why is it only Moreh? Why not, let's say, Champai, Zokhautar in Mizoram? Why not Pangsau in Arunachal? Or why not Lungwa, or for that matter, Dan in Nagaland? The simple fact is, it is not about just our roads, our connectivities, but it also has to take into consideration the connectivities that are there across. And in that, the region which is most well developed in Myanmar happens to be opposite Manipur. That is the primary reason why most of the trade, everything, all the developments are happening from here. So going forward, whether you look at Southeast Asia or going beyond into the Indo-Pacific, the approach will be through Myanmar, through Manipur only. This is another slide. While the earlier one was showing you our interests in the look east, now this is a wider one. It is looking at even Indo-Pacific, going farther to the east. So to reach out to all these places, it is going to be Manipur and Manipur alone, which will be the most important state here. Let me take you back in time and begin with this slide. This is on the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulations, BEFR of 1873. Now, this is the map of undivided India, or India as it existed earlier. What you see here, this portion which is marked, is where the inner line or outer lines came up by the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulations of 1873. And the Britishers didn't want people to go beyond these lines simply because they had their commercial interests in tea, teak, timber, tusker, such like things, and coal and oil also subsequently. Later on, after independence, now there is this country which suddenly gets imposed. Bangladesh comes in between what was undivided India, and the complete northeast gets cut off by this chicken's neck, which is as narrow as is shown here, 18 to 20 kilometers at its narrowest, and 40 kilometers in length. Now, thereafter, Assam state itself gets fractured and new states get formed, while Tripura and Manipur, erstwhile kingdoms, were always separate, never part of Assam. But all other states, beginning with Nagaland, which came up in 1963, then we had Meghalaya, and coming up in 1972, along with Mizoram and Arunachal, which came in later, Manipur also 1972. Now, that was just a brief backgrounder of the geography. Now, I want to delve on the security situation as is exists. General Lamba made a mention that I shall be covering much about what exists now and be more specific with facts and figures. Now, all of you would have heard in the media, read in the media, that the security situation has been improving over the years in the Northeast. Things can't be any better than what they were. And surely this next slide of mine shows that. As you see from the left, as you progress towards the light, you see the height of the bars reducing. But what I've also marked are certain bars which are in red. Now, what I wish to showcase here is, while they may have been dipped, there are also spikes. So you have spikes in the years of 2007, 2012, 2014, and last year also, 2021 also. So this improvement in law and order situation is not continuous. There are spikes, and this surely is an area of concern for us. That was Northeast. Same applies to Manipur also. Here again, you would find in the years of 2008, 2012, 2019, and last year 21, there have been spikes after dip. This is something that needs to be of concern to us and make us be prepared that while things may look okay, it doesn't take much time for things to be not okay. Same is the case with Naga insurgency. I shall not delve much on this. I'll quickly come to the external factors. We spoke of the chicken neck, that narrow corridor. So what happens? Northeast has only 1% of landmass connected to rest of India. 99% is with 5 neighboring countries. So anything that happens in these 5 countries surely impact us to a very great extent. I shall quickly cover these states, these countries, of course, with more emphasis on Myanmar. Let me begin by starting Bhutan. Bhutan, ladies and gentlemen, as you would be aware, at one time, most of the Alpha insurgents of Assam resided there along the southern hill tracts of Bhutan. There was a time when there were as many as 3,500 to almost 4,000 Ulfa and Bodo cadres camping in Bhutan. Till 2003, when India launched this all-clear operations, when the Royal Bhutanese Army pushed these militants out of their country, and then peace and normalcy started to begin in Assam. In Bangladesh, again, this is a country where there were camps of all the militant factions of the Northeast, but then came this friendly government of Sheikh Hasina, and she, from the time she's been in power, she has continuously helped flush the militants out of Bangladesh. Many of them have been handed over to us also. But, and there is a big but here, today we are not very sure of what happens after Sheikh Hasina. There is no second-rung leadership in the Awami League who we can say would follow exactly the principles that she follows, would follow exactly the rules that she follows, because there is a huge undercurrent of this movement of the JMB. You must have heard of this group, an Islamic group, fundamentalist group, which is there in Bangladesh. It has great number of sleeper cells in West Bengal and Bihar. And this came to light in 2016, July, 1st of July, if I remember the date correct, when there was an attack on a cafe in something like a Chanakyapuri in Delhi. There's this upmarket area in Dhaka, and this place called Holy Artisan Cafe, which was struck by militants, and there were 22 people who lost their lives there. 9 of them were Italians, 7 of them Japanese. There was also an Indian girl, a teenage girl, and an American and a Brit citizen also. Now, a follow-up to that, you will not believe there were close to 80 militants who have been eliminated by the Bangladesh government. 300 people have been arrested. Around 56 people have been identified who are sleepers in India who helped facilitate that attack. And there is this group which is constantly a source of concern for Bangladesh, will be a cause for concern for us when Sheikh Hasina is no longer in power. Nepal, you all would know that this is a country which was used extensively by the Pakis. We had one of our planes getting hijacked here. You would have heard of forfeit currencies which were being run from Nepal. And then I come to the most important country for us here as we look towards Southeast Asia and our Act East policy, Myanmar. There are two maps of Myanmar here. On the left are the various ethnic groups, and on the right, all those small circles are the trouble spots. The ethnic groups, as you would notice, in the center, in the heartland, you have the Bambars, and the other ethnic groups which are on the periphery are asking for federalism, which to their understanding the central government or the Burmese government, Myanmar government is not giving. That is the source of all the trouble there. And if you have a closer look at all these trouble spots, you would notice most of these are bordering China, and that's with the purpose. And of them, most of them are in the vicinity of Yunnan, and opposite that is the Kachin state of Myanmar. Let's talk about the current situation. If you look at this slide, from the time the change in dispensation happened last year in February in Myanmar, there have been a total of about 1,700 people, soldiers from the Myanmar army who have lost their lives. There have been many civilian casualties also, which has resulted in this huge refugee influx that has been witnessed by Mizoram and Manipur, of which I shall talk later. And before getting there, a quick look at the diversity. I don't have to speak of diversity because you all here are well aware, but the fundamental point is there are close to 400 different ethnicities, almost 350 languages in the Northeast, which is what makes this area so diverse. And when you have an area so diverse in a very limited geographical mass, each tribe, each ethnic group wants to maintain its identity. And that, unfortunately, is not happening. There have been huge migrations immediately after the independence in 47, and again the next exodus in 1971 after the war. And if you notice, or at least the map on the right, all these red areas in red are where large number of refugees came in from Bangladesh. So when you have so many migrants coming, and why do they come? Why are they all coming from Bangladesh? I want to give you some statistics about the density of population. Bangladesh today has a population density of 1265 people per kilometer square, 1265. The average density of population in the Northeast is 173, and in Manipur it's only 128. Now let's look at India. The top three states, the highest is Bihar with 1106, next is Bengal with 1028, and Kerala is 860. So surely this landmass, which has such a huge population density, a country which is threatened by many natural calamities, there are floods, there are landslides, there are cyclones. Obviously, the landmass itself for cultivation, for livelihood is no longer there, which is why you have all these people moving to this part of our country. While Bangladesh today may say that we are doing better in the social indices in per capita income, but this problem is not going to go away anywhere in a hurry. So let me speak about Manipur also. Manipur also witnessed large amount of Bangladesh people coming into Jiribam, also into Sisipur. But now the refugees that we are witnessing are the ones who are coming from Myanmar for the disturbed situation that happens there. Let me start with Mizoram. Mizoram today has close to 30, it's anything between 30,000 to 60,000 refugees who have come in from Myanmar since last year. That is in addition to the 1 lakh refugees, again from Myanmar, who were already there. So you had 1 lakh refugees already earlier, now you have this huge exodus happening again. You know what effect that will have. Thankfully in Manipur, the numbers have not been as high, but surely there are reports to suggest that it's anything between 4,000 to 5,000 refugees from Myanmar who come here. So how does this affect us? It's in things like drugs, arms, human trafficking, and diseases. You would all remember that when COVID was still happening, it was Mizoram which had the highest COVID cases in the Northeast. And that was simply because of the large number of people who were coming from Myanmar. Economic security, we already spoke of this. I do want to emphasize once again that we do not work at cross purposes, but we do look forward to working in synergy and helping the country achieve its financial and economic objectives that are there in place. So I spoke of economic security. One point you need to remember is that the Northeast was connected seamlessly to what was erstwhile East Bengal. And suddenly when this country came up, all our connectivities, land, water, everything broke off. Shillong was a lot closer to Sylhet than it was to Calcutta or anywhere else, or Guwahati for that matter. I want to also touch upon drugs, because this is the second, or possibly today the biggest cause of concern for us in the Northeast. And I want to again begin here with some statistics. Now, these statistics which I'm revealing is quite alarming. Look at the All India seizures. I'll start with All India. All India seizures of drugs in crores. In 2019, it was 2,818 crores. In 2020, it was 3,500 crores. 2021, 5,778 crores. This year till August, we already touched 2,700 crores. This is at the national level. In terms of drug users, 2004, the country had 1.1 crore people who are using or who are into substance abuse. That number has gone to 6.9 crores in 2019. Now, let's come closer home. I wish to draw your attention to this particular data, which is very important. This gives out the states who are the most affected by people who are indulging in substance abuse. And I'm going to name you the first 5 countries in this. Number 1 is Mizoram. Number 2 is Nagaland. Number 3 is Arunachal Pradesh. Number 4 is Sikkim. Number 5 is Manipur. Can it get any worse? The top 5 states in the country are from the Northeast. And let's look at the other states which I have not mentioned. Meghalaya is 10th. Tripura is 13th. And Assam, thankfully, is, despite being the largest, is at 15th. So surely there is a cause for concern. I just recently attended the Chintan Shabir in Delhi, where now at the national level there is a thought process of renaming the so-called Golden Triangle and Golden Crescent in the West, or renaming them as Death Triangles or Death Crescent rather than Golden, to make the people realize as to what it actually is. Now I also here want to tell you of the drug catch.
General Nair, I give you another 3 minutes because he is the Director General of Assam Rifles, so we have to give him some extra time.
Thank you, sir. So I want to bring these facts and figures to the notice of the audience because this is fresh from the oven. Just got these figures from Delhi day before yesterday. So in all this, what I also want to tell you is, it is not peculiar to the Northeast, whether this drug haul, I shall be showing you a slide. This is the drug seizure by Assam Rifles over the last few years. But it is not only peculiar to the Northeast, it transcends the complete Southeast Asia. You will be again surprised to know in the last 2 years, it is not just the Northeast India, but also Laos, also Thailand, also Myanmar, which have reported the highest amount of catch that has happened in their countries. So surely there is some countries, there is some big player who's trying all this to forcefully get these drugs to our youth. I hope you get the message. And my last slide here before I touch briefly on Assam Rifles is the constant player here is and will remain China, whether you look at it from any country's perspective. Anything that's going wrong in this region, you have one country to blame, and I don't need to spell out why. And it goes beyond our immediate neighborhood, goes right down to all the Southeast Asian countries. Let's think of a country which is not in a state of dispute with China today. My last 30 seconds, as the Director General of Assam Rifles, I need to tell you of what Assam Rifles has achieved. These are our operational achievements in terms of traditional. And if you look below the contraband recovery, you could classify that as a non-traditional threat for us. Finally, in sum, if I have to tell you what is of concern to us in terms of traditional threats, it is China. Whether you see it in terms of conventional operations that happen on our northern borders, or could be the insurgency which always has this propensity of being, again, surfacing, very often driven by China. It can happen. There is every likelihood. In terms of non-traditional, two issues which I've only touched upon, but are of the biggest concern for us today, are the drug menace, and the other thing is the refugee crisis or the refugee problem, which we need to address. On that note, so I would wish to thank you once again, and the organizers for having me over, and we are free to take on questions after the session.